This was the second race from the Sunday just been. There was 3 races technically speaking, but I was not up for doing a third, that's for sure. Now, from the first one, which was my previous video, it was pretty windy, and as you can see, it was gradually getting windier and windier as the race went on. But it only got worse as we went into race 2, with the race officer reporting up to 34 knots from the committee boat, which is quite a lot of actual wind speed on the water versus what just a forecast says. Now, this start did not quite go to plan. Now, I don't actually know where Alistair is. I think he ended up going a lot further before he tacked, whereas I decided, get tacked early, make sure I don't get into too many issues with the tack, and then I can focus on going towards the line. But you'll notice the hadron is in a particularly bizarre position. Now, what happens here is that the hadron, it kind of encourages us all to get a little closer to the start line than maybe wanted to. You can see that he's sort of positioned himself in the middle of the line, the D0 off to the right hand side along with the Europe. Now, the issue I'm having is I want to get the controls on so that as soon as it's ready for go time, I can focus on getting the boat moving and not trying to fiddle around with the controls. But at the same time, the boat wants to move quite a lot, which is not really working in my favour. So I'm bearing away because this hadron is kind of, I'm worried that I'm going to end up wanting to bear away into them. So I go below them, but I'm running out of start line quite a lot here. And I'm drifting quite a lot, and I've still got 20 seconds to go looking at my watch thinking, oh, geez. Now this hadron is definitely over the line. In fact, he acknowledges it by sailing around the ends. There you go. He's gone, I'm over. Let me do something about it. Now, you can see the D0 over there too. Now, the individual recall did go up, and I thought I was just about clear. However, I found out that both me and the D0 were OCS, and the hadron obviously went back over the line and actually won the race in the end. Yeah, as you can see, way windier than the last one. Some pretty big gusts. I was lucky to not run out of start line there, but I was actually over the line after chatting with the race officer, and I didn't even know it. I assumed the individual recall was for the hadron. I didn't really have a look back to see if it had gone back down immediately. I was a little bit preoccupied with these pretty punchy gusts and making sure I was ready to react to them, because I knew I'd fall in if I was not looking the right way. But yeah, it's not quite what people want to hear, that you got OCS at club racing. But it was a good race nonetheless, and good practice to try and get myself round this course in these challenging conditions. As you can see, it's very, very gusty, and I'm pretty tired at this point. 4 laps of the first race was enough to really exhaust me, but yeah, I'm thinking, let's go for the tack. But no, actually, let's find a good opportunity and make sure that main sheet doesn't get caught on the racks. There we go. I must say, with the shoes, I find I'm using these trainers actually to trapeze in, and even though they're a bit colder than like boots, I find they're very comfortable because of the proper sole. So that was quite a good tack. But as you can see, I'm having to go a little bit below Alistair. Alistair has actually beaten me to the windward mark. Well, beaten me at least for the first tack. I think he has a slightly slower tack because that day he was coming to sit in on the rack before unhooking, whereas I was getting my entry into the tack a bit quicker than him, which was helping me get set up on the other side quicker. But it does mean I'm going to catch the lasers a lot quicker. Now, it makes a lot of sense why I'm going to be first around the windward mark compared to the other 600, probably because I was OCS. But, they do say, in order to be a good starter, you do need to push the line and get the occasional OCS. When was the last time you got an OCS? Was it a few years ago? Then you're probably being too conservative on the start line and you need to start pushing it harder. And so it's all good practice. So I'm glad I pushed the line, and maybe I should try and do that a little bit more regularly in club racing, as the results at the end of the day don't actually matter, but it is really good practice for when you're at a championship. Now we're getting towards the lane line of this first beat. Now I'm actually nudging off a few degrees, going a little bit lower than the lasers to optimise for the speed rather than to pinch, and it seems to be working pretty well for me VMG wise. But as we get closer to the shore, you can actually see the clubhouse and some of the trees. The village on the south side of the lake is slightly higher, which means the gusts come down in pretty sharp bursts, and then because of the nature of the clubhouse being a big solid block, it does mean that you get quite a lot of shifts as well, which can be quite difficult to manage. So this top lay line can be quite difficult because the boat wants to go, but then you hit a hole or you hit a shift, and it's it's all about taking risk management. I'm trying not to power up too hard here, knowing that I could get dunked into the water and it'd be really difficult for me to recover from that. But as you can see, I'm absolutely sending it. To, getting a lot of speed here. I'm glad on this race I lowered my GPS a lot more than the first one, which definitely helped to manage my stability on these reaches. Getting my weight lowered down helped to just generally prevent myself from wobbling forwards. I definitely should have got a little bit more comfortable with standing on the racks. I was so comfortable on the gunnel, especially getting my back foot tucked into the rack there. I found it works quite well for me, but I really need to maybe try using some foot loops again, or just try I've actually got some Harken grip tape to put on the racks once it's a bit warmer, so I'll see how that does for helping me make sure I don't swing forwards, because I do find that sometimes you get hit by a little bump and you lose your grip. Now, this is the really weird bit about this reach. I came down to the bottom and the boat just completely shut down. I'm looking behind me and I've got the Hadron, I've got the D0 and the other 600 all catching me up big time, and I'm thinking, how have I ended up in this situation where now I'm thinking of taking some kicker off, getting some Cunningham off, getting the boat powered up, but I can also see the pressure therein that I'm about to get hit by, which ironically is exactly when the jibe mark is. See, the boat's speeding up and I've already unhooked from the GPS thinking I want to go for my jibe, but the jibe about 10 seconds ago would have been perfect. But that's sailing, it's not always in your favour. Now, this race was not optimal for me jibing wise. Apparently I've forgotten how to jibe in breeze, so let's take some time right now to analyse what's going wrong. So that doesn't look too bad. I think the problem was there that I didn't straighten up quick enough. I tried to turn too much, which I guess is sort of the difficult part of the fact that we're doing quite a sharp jibe. If you're jibing on a run, you would try and basically go from super, super low to super, super low. Whereas in my head, part of me is like, I want to turn 90 degrees and start heading off on a beam reach towards the next mark. So you make the jibe, you think it's all good, and you go, okay, I'll start heading up for the reach. But the reality is, in a 600 at least, I need to get myself comfortable, I need to get myself back onto the trapeze, I need to make sure I'm ready to go for that reach, because if I'm not ready to jump up on the side, play that main, steer to those gusts, I'm just going to fall in like I did in the last race when that happened. Now, let's put it this way, this race was pretty heartbreaking, because while I had a very comfortable lead, cheating-wise, with the OCS, I couldn't get the boat to right itself. In the other race, when I had a couple of capsizes, I could throw it back up pretty easily. Now, one of the big contributing factors to when a 600 capsize, and to be honest, any boat, but definitely noticeable in the 600, is if you can't get the kicker off, or more correctly, let the main breathe, when it's super flat and stiff, think about trying to push like something really solid, I guess like your dagger board, or even if you just took like a wooden spoon. When you take the thin edge of the wooden spoon, it runs through the water really nice, kind of like your rudder does. But as soon as you turn that 90 degrees, it doesn't want to move through the water at all. And I guess that's kind of what's happening with my sail. It's 12 meters squared of very stiff sail that doesn't want to push through the water. And so I'm trying to sit on the centerboard right now, lean over the top, and trying to get my kicker off so that the sail opens up. But this is the problem I run into, because it's there's a lot of tension in that cleat. It doesn't want to just pop out the cleat. I can't quite get my hand in a good enough angle to just pop it out. So if it was a lot lighter, I could probably just flick it very gently and it would fall out the cleat, but I couldn't quite reach it, so I had to really lean over. Eventually I was able to get the kicker off and the boat finally righted itself. But at this point, the Hadron, the D0 and the other 600 are now already starting. I think they were going through the start line, so they're already basically a leg ahead. So I'm thinking, right, this is just a training opportunity now. Let's just get some practice in this breeze. If I feel comfortable, I can try and push myself a little harder on those reaches, maybe get out on the rack, which was something I wasn't doing in the first race, just to see if I could catch up with them. Now, it looks like my sail is flopping way more, so I'm going to assume I got the kicker off, but we'll see if the sail itself actually wants to, right itself now. Yeah, so good note, if you're getting into 600s, maybe you're new to it, or skiff sailing in general, get those controls off. I find getting the kicker and the cunno off definitely helps get the capsize rightened quicker, jump back in, pull them back on, get going. Yeah, I definitely have got the kicker off now. The mast is practically sideways now. But yeah, you got to factor that in. Moving all the rig through the water is not great for it, to be honest. There we go. Finally got the boat upright, and I'm just thinking, I hate this boat right now. Luckily, nothing broke. There we go. Elegantly done. Let's get some kicker back on. I can see I've got like 70% of it off at the moment, which is not going to be great for this. But it's going to be really hard to get it pulled back on at this sort of angle. So I think I've got probably about 2/3 of it on there. That's about 75% of it on. I'm thinking, let's give this a go. So hook myself back on. And yeah, we can see all the other boats are going up the next beat. I'm still going on the reach, but I've got nothing to lose now. So let's try and push it, see what happens. Will I learn from this jibe going forwards? Spoiler alert, no. But we can analyse the other 3 jibes I do in this race, 2 of them which end up in swims. In fact, there's a few interesting points to analyse from that, but we're going to focus on what's happening right now. So right now on this reach, I'm on the rack, very happy about that, but I am nervous about hitting a hole and falling to windward, and then as a result of falling to windward, losing my grip on the boat, and then capsizing to windward. That's where putting my foot on the gunnel means that when I capsize, the back of my heel can sort of, and the back of my thigh, not my thigh, my calf, sort of can brace against the rack and sort of hook me in a little bit so that if I start to drift away from the boat, I can sort of pull myself back to it. So that is one perk of putting my back foot on the gunnel. But it wouldn't really work if I was on wide racks. It's much easier on the narrows. But yeah, really sending it here really nicely, maybe helped by having a little bit of kicker off. Good rounding too, actually. Got the boat round there quite nicely. Definitely need some more kicker on, but this is the challenge. Trying to get that kicker on is hard. There we go. Now, let's see how the tack goes. I've got the main sheet caught around my foot, always a good place to be. Not a bad one. I'm trying to work on the number of steps I do in the tack. Ideally, I'm standing on the rack. I get myself lined up with where the black tape, where the grip tape is on the centerboard case, and I will unhook, front foot onto the gunnel, back foot sort of in line where the rudder is at the back, and then the front foot across the boat onto the next gunnel, and then from there I can sort of hook myself on, swivel, and do 2 steps back onto the rack. I'm finding that's working really well in both the light breeze and the Jibing. In the heavy winds though, I still get a little bit nervous and still sort of throw myself into sort of skidding on my knees across the boat or flopping. And I do find that these new shoes I've got, whereas my old boots, the grip was really wearing on them, they grip way better on this boat, so I can feel a lot more confident standing on the white, which is good. Now this beat, let's have a look at this beat. What's going on here? So I'm trapezing maybe a little bit higher than I should be, which is not helping me. I'm standing a little further back than I probably should be, but I am playing the survival mode of when I see the gust, heading into it, letting the sail flap, and then bearing away to fill, rather than doing the opposite of jumping the main and sort of bearing away, because that doesn't necessarily help me in the gusts, I guess. But I'd love to know what you guys think of my gust technique here. It's definitely more survival, but I guess the laser and the Europe I'm catching up kind of give you a bit of an idea of how rough it is. Now, like I showed you on the Strava map, it definitely seemed to pay to, well, there's a couple of reasons to go left up the beat. One, I'm pretty certain it was biased. That's quite an early tack, to be honest. Interesting. But I can't really see the mark very well. It's quite small, and there's a lot of boats that sort of look like they're going around it, but actually they're on the reach. I guess I'm sort of near the ley line, so it definitely seemed like it was definitely a better heading to stay on starboard rather than to go onto port early on. 2, less tacks is always a good thing. If we learnt anything from the end of January when I capsized mid-tack due to my own stupidity. But yeah, you can see how much lower I'm going compared to the Europe. Definitely feel like there's some things I could do to work on my height in these sort of conditions, but that's not necessarily a problem. Looks like... Oh, I don't know what I said there. Now, it looks like I'm skidding a lot less with the centerboard this time. I think I put it down a little bit. Last race, I think I was definitely skidding a little bit sideways, losing a bit of ground upwind, which is not a good thing. But, yeah, I think there's some of the holes, and that will be purely based on the clubhouse, based on where I am. Maybe more the visitor center, the activity center next door. But that's why going right would maybe not pay, is going along the entire ley line, pretty much on the starboard ley line. Yeah, the starboard ley line. You just deal with all of the horribleness from the shore. At Grapham, and I'm sure most other inland places, it typically doesn't pay to head up towards the shore first and then tack if there's lots of trees and things. Typically it ends up just being incredibly shifty, and you normally get the wind go over the trees and then miss you. Now Grafham's a difficult one because we actually, well, let's have a look at this tack. Front foot in, back foot in the middle, front foot across, back foot on the gunnel, hook on, and then I did drop the main sheet, but something happened with the main sheet, and then get myself out. That was a clean tack, apart from I need to work on crossing that boat even quicker, ideally, in the future. Now, we're going onto the reach nearly. I've definitely overshot the ley line every lap, I think, because I didn't want to have to do another double tack. So that's something I need to work on as well, is working on how to figure out where those marks are. I've got a compass. Having the compass on the boat would definitely help with that, to get an idea of the heading. I need to print a mount for that to stick to my boat. So if you're interested to see how that goes, then let me know and I'll put some content on Instagram. Now, this reach is looking much better than the first race. I think the last one looked like that too, but as you can see, it really up and down, especially as we go more towards the east where there's the water treatment center, so the trees end up getting quite high again, and the trees also, the lake gets narrower here, so this is technically a bit closer to the shore as well, I guess. But yeah, as you can see, I don't want to get out on the rack, and even sometimes I want to actually come in a little bit more into the hole, because yeah, that emergency, on the emergency corner there, I've got my left foot there on it, because there's not actually just not quite enough pressure. Now maybe I need more confidence in trapezing with my knees bent on the gunnel, and maybe even on the rack, because at the end of the day I'm not really trapezing to keep the boat balanced left to right. I'm really just trying to keep the boat from nosediving because of how big the sail is and how far out I have it. I could really have done with this mark being a little bit tighter, with the opportunity to bear off in the gusts and soak low and then head up in the lulls. But yeah, we're getting close to that next jibe. Now, do I do this jibe successfully? Let's see what happens here and what I could have done differently. Taking some kicker off definitely would have helped a little bit to stop the boat powering up. Okay, so I didn't cross the boat quick enough. I think the steering was good, but the problem was I was not crossing the boat when the boom was in the middle of the boat. I should ideally be crossing the boat before the boom has started to cross, well, before the boom hits the middle of the boat. I think in the 600 you don't want to be already on the other side like you do in stuff like a 400 with the spinnaker, where you're basically already like touching the other side before the sails have swapped. But there's obviously a lot of sail area there, so, and the spinnaker's, you know, another factor to bear in mind. But in a 600, I think ideally, yeah, if you go too far across too soon, you'll just capsize the other way, which is something like a 400 is a little bit more forgiving on. I'm glad to see that I'm trapezing with 2 feet though. This is good, and I'm absolutely sending it. Ah, there we go. Put my foot on the gunnel. 2 feet on the rack though, it's always good to see, but I definitely felt at risk of falling in. I mean, you can see how light it is. Well, not light, it's still pretty windy, but you can see how up and down the breeze is. It's not a consistent breeze, that's for sure. Yeah, there we go. Going pretty quickly there, that's nice. That capsize recovery was a lot quicker. I kind of missed it because I was busy trying to explain what happened on the jibe. But yeah, I think that I'm doing a pretty good job of getting the boat on the plane, heading up a little bit, but mostly just bearing off in those gusts and then sort of allowing me to sort of start my mark rounding very early on. I'd rather soak quite low and take the speed and then just start heading up, because there's this thing called the dead zone that I don't fully... well, I understand it, but I don't fully appreciate it. Of if you're going really, really fast in a straight line, there's an area where the boat just gets so overpowered it doesn't know what to do with itself. A bit like that, where I couldn't really head up because I was just too quick. Ideally, I would have gone a bit lower, come in really wide to that mark so I could come in tight on the exit. Let's see how... that's pretty good tack for how gusty it got then. And that's the thing, once you've done the tack, sitting on the exit, taking your time, again, getting through the tack's the hard part, especially with this much kicker on. Getting yourself hooked on and then getting yourself back out is important to do at a good pace. You do it too quickly, boat will go wrong. It'll capsize on you, a bit like it did for me at the end of January, where the reason I actually capsized and was upside down for 3 minutes was purely because of the fact that I just didn't stand on the side quick enough. There's no point trying to hook on and have the main sheet all the way in, because it's all going to go wrong for you. Now, let's have a look at this. What's going on here? We're going upwind here. Again, I think my starboard trapeze line is far too high. I think I should do it being a little bit lower, to be honest. I could then bend my knees a little bit and straighten them for the gusts. That would help me here, because at the moment I'm having to do everything with my hands. Using my legs here would help me a little bit. In the same way that in a laser, right, you would just flatten. You'd hike a little bit harder in the gusts. As you can see, there are some pretty big holes here, and I'm trying to be very careful to not let any of them throw me in and capsize me. Again, it's all about playing it slightly less risky and playing the low risk. I have nothing to lose, but at the same time, I don't want to rush it and throw myself in, especially because I'm getting tired. I don't want to break anything myself, the boat. But as you can see, it looks windy when the video looks pretty windy. Like, some of these gusts are brutal, but I'm really trying to stuff it into the wind, let the main depower, and then crack back on again. Yeah, I think it's going, and generally got my legs a little bit wider for stability, making sure I don't pitch pole, or more correctly swing around the front, because that would be bad. I'm getting pretty close to the ley line, but again, I'm just focusing on keeping the boat relatively flat and going for speed, and then taking the height in between the gusts where I can, mostly to, again, stop myself from dunking to windward. How's this tack? Okay, I completely just flopped into the middle of the boat. Not great, but it was safe, and it was, again, the key thing is the exit. If I can get myself onto the other side and the boat doesn't get stuck head to wind, that is the main thing. This boat loves getting stuck head to wind, especially when the kicker's on and it brings the center of effort backwards. And if the weight's backwards, that brings the center of effort backwards too. It just makes it a recipe for disaster. Imagine sailing a double-hander without a jib. It's exactly like that. And as soon as you take the kicker off and get the weight forwards, it's like sailing a double-hander with a jib. So, yeah, bear that in mind, because I know a few of you watching are thinking about getting 600s, or maybe just got them, looking for some tips on getting started. That's a common one I ran into a lot when I got the boat, was getting stuck into irons. And as you can see from my tacks today, trying to make the boat, focusing on getting the boat through the tack is the quick part. Don't worry, it seems scary to unhook on the rack. It seems scary to sort of step in like I am, but it's so much more helpful than trying to jump straight back out on the trapeze the other side and hook yourself on wire to wire. You're unlikely to do that successfully, especially on a day like today. And with the fully battened main, it's better to just focus on getting yourself set up rather than dropping something, snapping your tiller extension and capsizing to windward. Okay, so we're nearly on the ley line. I could definitely tack now. I don't know why I'm not. I'm really struggling to look over my shoulder and actually work out what the ley lines are. I think it doesn't help that I'm obviously not pointing like normally, so I'm trying to go, I don't really know. So let's see what the how much I overshot the ley line here. Again, I keep doing a good tack onto the ley line, but I'm quite slow at getting back out the other side. Something I could definitely work on is trying to get myself straight, standing up on that gunnel before I hook on, helping get the weight out. But as you can see, I really could do it being on the rack. Come on, get myself on the rack. As you can see, massively overshot the ley line, but that's fine. Alright, let's see how I can get powered up on this reach this time. So there's the mark. Big time overshot it. Okay, looks like it's going quite well. I could potentially do with standing a little bit further forwards. I'm very keen on getting my foot tucked in that corner of the rack for the... Oh, it's all gone a little bit wrong. Yeah, it's really difficult because I'm trying to play the main here as well. I need to sheet on a little bit in those lulls, but at the same time, it's quite hard to do so while I'm standing so awkwardly at the back so low. There we go. Getting some good speed on there. As the gust hits me, I'm just trying to bear away just a little bit, but not too much. Oh, there we go. A little bit of a wobble there. Oh. Yeah, not... But then I kind of hit a hole here. It's difficult. I wonder what... yeah. I wonder if I could have sort of kept the gust going, if I felt more confident sheeting the main quicker, if I could sort of head into the... kind of follow the gust with me. There's definitely a little bit of apparent wind playing here as well, I guess. So, here's a big mistake. I'm trying to look behind me to see the boats that I've got past, like the lasers. But I think every time I did that, I wobbled, and potentially it's the next lap where I capsize. Okay, we're getting a pretty good point here for the jibe. Will I be able to successfully do the jibe? Ooh. I mean, it's a lot less windy this time, and it's still a bit. That wasn't a terrible jibe. I crossed the boat much earlier, and as a result, the boat kept pretty flat. When the main came across, I was ready to get myself out, and as a result, I've been able to hook on pretty early on and get the boat powered up. Now, I definitely think I could have been trapezing a bit lower on these reaches. I think especially on this reach on the port side, it would have helped me big time. But then I know that when I went around the leeward mark, it was which was K and an F. It was definitely quite difficult because I was far too low and I didn't really have a hand to hoink myself back up before the mark rounding. Especially because as I go further towards F, the wind gets gustier as we get less sheltered from the trees. So you've sort of got to factor in it's going to get worse the closer I get to the mark. Anything I need to do before the mark, I should do now because I can. I won't have a chance to do it once I get to the mark. As you can see, I'm standing a little further forwards. I think that's good for my speed. I think that's helping not dig the backing quite so much. But I get so carried away with wanting to stand so far back. So I guess that's my main biggest learning from today is, do I need to stand that far back? On the first reach, probably because of how broad it is. But this is a beam reach, basically, on flat water. I don't need to stand that far back. Here I probably do, where I'm just absolutely sending it. And I'm trying to go around the mark here, but I want to make sure I don't just stuff it up and capsize to windward to that laser because I can't shoot the main quick enough. But yeah, I'm thinking we're getting white horses a little bit and I'm not even that far from the shore. Must be pretty windy. Let's go for a tack. That's a pretty safe tack. Now that's a risky tack because if I hadn't have turned so quickly, there's the potential that I could have got myself a little bit stuck. A little bit stuck to windward there, but I made it work. Exit was pretty good too, but obviously I didn't unhook on the rack, so that helps with getting across. Sort of a slow, if you come in slow, you can normally get yourself set up on the other side quite quickly. It's sort of, they go hand in hand. Quick entry, slow exit, and vice versa. Now I'm trying to make sure I can get in front of that laser before the committee boat. Pretty tight. Managed to make it work with a bit of pinching. But as you can see, I'm still too high on that starboard side. I don't know why. I think it's because I hoiked myself up when it dropped off on the first lap, and I never lowered myself down, especially because I couldn't really afford to put the main sheet in my backhand and quickly adjust myself because I need to respond to these gusts. But at the same time, with how up and down it is, having myself a little bit higher is better for the safety net. Okay, so at least I'm planing quite nicely. I definitely needed more rig tension on. A good way to gauge if your rig tension's not quite enough in a 600, because the rig's really weird in the 600. Because it's a rotating mast that's stayed, the shrouds effectively get pulled more depending on how far in and out the boom is. So if I let the main all the way out now, the shroud would get short. The distance between the fitting on the mast and the U-bolt on the boat would get shorter, so the shroud should get floppier. If I pull the main in, it's going to get tighter. So yeah, bit of a weird one. So if you get loads of rig tension on it, I think it means that now, because your shrouds are tighter, the mast won't rotate as easily, which is bad for the light winds. And also, in any boat, less rig tension means you can get your mast further forwards, up downwind, you can push the boom against the shroud and bend it a bit. Now, in conditions like this, especially when you're Japezing, you want to be able to have, you know, a rig that's relatively stiff so that you want the rig tension. The issue I'm having is, because I'm quite heavy, ooh, that's a bit of a wobbly tack, oh my goodness. That was a risky tack, but I made it, and I knew I needed to because I was on the ley line. I've managed to get past the D0, which is good. I've managed to catch them up. Maybe they had a swim that I didn't see. But I have managed to catch up the D0, which is pretty good going, considering I gave them a 3-minute head start with my capsize at the start. Ooh. Yeah, that the boat just doesn't want to... I need to bear off, but I'm worried I'll go into the D0, whose half its sail's inverted as well. Yeah, look at this go. This is intense conditions, that's for sure. You can tell it's absolutely honking. I'm glad I didn't try and do that third one. There's I think that's the Hadron I can see. There's Alistair in his 600. I think he had a messy capsize on the upwind. So I'm glad I've managed to catch him up too. It's helping me sort of go, you know, reassurance that all this windy weather practice is paying off in some form. I think that's Alistair's just tacked ahead of me to go round the to go round for the reach. So let's see if I can catch him up. I've caught the D0 up. Now, yeah, about the rig. Having a really good high... Ooh. Managed to save it. Having my legs wider was a good idea. And that's probably why I didn't drop myself on the trapeze. definitely harder on this starboard ley line with those shifts and stuff from the clubhouse. Now, yeah, tight rig basically means the shroud, your windward shroud doesn't flop, and as a result means that you don't get bounced around all over the place because the rig's staying in the same place. Definitely had a bit of a wobbly shroud upwind, so a little bit more rig tension would have been good. Now, we're absolutely... And also the rig tension goes down as you pull kicker on because the mast bends, so the distance between the top and the bottom gets shorter, shroud more floppy, pretty much. So factor that in too. Take the kicker off, rig stiff. Okay, so this reach was difficult. It was very up and down and very shifty. It was sort of the combination of both nightmares. Some shifts that you can't really see because you're looking forwards, and some gusts. And as you can see, I'm really trying to manage the risk here. I've lowered myself, it looks like, which is good. But yeah, trying to play those shifts and the gusts is really difficult. I can see Alistair's been knocked over by one of them, I think, ahead. And so I'm trying to make sure I go a little bit lower than him. But I also want to make sure I don't repeat what he's done. Boat's going really nicely here. Can I keep this going? Big gust. Bear away a little bit for that. Oh no, is that Alistair who's still ahead? I don't know. Maybe it's a flying 15 I can see. That's a laser, sorry. Ah, there we go. Big swim. Good job, me. So, hit the camera. Good, nice one. Now, the question is, get myself onto the centerboard, get that kicker off ASAP, and then pull myself back up. Can I beat Alistair? That's the question we all want to know. Now, the D0 is going to catch me up too, which is the difficult bit as well. I was kind of hoping I could at least beat them on the water. I mean, they're OCS, so it doesn't matter. But and Alistair, I think, ended up retiring in the end because by the time I had luckily finished, it just got worse and worse, and the sailing was horrific. It was just so difficult. The gusts were just knocking us all over. Not bad. A little bit of kicker off. Didn't get too much off though, but I did get back in the boat. I do still have to do the blimmin' jibe. I was kind of hoping if I was going to fall in, I'd do it after the jibe point and just right the boat the right way up. So, do I even bother jibe? I think I don't bother hooking on because I know that I just need to sail another like 10 meters and then I can put the jibe in. But the D0 decides to go massively past the mark and decides to do a tack all the way around. I decide, I did a jibe last time, I managed to figure it out. What's the worst that could happen? I didn't cross the boat quick enough again. So the main lesson from today is I need to learn to cross the boat quicker during the jibes in these windy weather. Sometimes I cross it too early in the lighter stuff, but I think I actually get the boat up quicker than the D0 takes to do the full tack round. And that's the other thing. 600s are slow to tack, especially when you're going with low speed. And trying to do a full tack round instead of a jibe and a 600 is probably more likely to get you stuck in irons than just doing a quick capsize like this, pulling yourself back in on the trapeze like so, sheeting on, and away you go. So in fact, I actually got ahead of the D0 because of how much ground they lost by trying to wait for a good opportunity to jibe. There's the laser showing us how it's done. Easy peasy. That's a nice jibe from the laser. But yeah, the D0 is a little bit ahead, but this is where I can use the power of the 600 to get in front of them just before that next mark. Just trying to get myself comfortable. Big gusts. Very, very difficult. I can barely see what's going on, but I could do a lowering myself. I just, like you can see, don't really have an extra hand to do so. But also, when the gusts drop or the shifts hit, you get dunked like that. And so that was I think that was just a shift. I needed a sheet in for that, but again, really, really difficult to manage. But the boat's going really nicely. I mean, this is what I love about a 600. Just how epic is this? And I have been thinking about trying to sail some other classes, broaden my experience, try some different things, hiking boats on the days when trapeze boats aren't the right one, but I just can't not look at this and think why would I want to sail anything else? I love the 600, it's such a cool boat. I think the other thing as well is it's such a hard boat to sail well that there's always something more you could do. I could always improve your tack. In my case, I could improve my reaching technique. I could definitely go quicker if I felt more confident trapezing lower and if I was better at steering in those gusts. And so these videos help me come up with training points, and then I can watch them back and see what can I do differently next time. Another safe tack. I've got so much momentum coming off that reach that I can just throw it straight into attack and it doesn't really matter. There's the D0 going for their rounding. I am on starboard now, which gives me a little leg up, but they're probably going to attack on the inside of me or go behind. D0s do look like nice boats too, but it's got nothing on a 600 for the thrill factor. Maybe I should try a D0. I've been offered to try someone's at the club, so maybe I'll give it a go in the summer. Could be a good boat to rotate in and out of. I still have a laser. I only have a 6 rig, so I should get a 7 rig for it, as I am, well, clearly too big for one. But yeah, let me know what boats you think I should try. I've been thinking about it. Maybe an Aero, maybe a Hadron. I mean, I think they're all nice boats. Probably a D0 though, because we've got a bit of a fleet of them at Grafham when it's not winter. Normally get a good handful out in the summer. So yeah, now it's just the sail in, and this sail in was rough. I was thinking of maybe trying to do some fast reaches on the way back in, especially because I still had charge in the camera, where we hadn't done very long races and we hadn't done a third. But as you can see, I just haven't got the energy to handle these gusts. It's getting proper windy now. If we just compare this to the start of my last video, completely different. And it's a completely different beast, and we knew it was going to build, and that was why we tried to do short races and quickly. But yeah, that's the joy of weather. And ironically, this weekend there is a forecast of about 2 knots, so I think I'll be using this opportunity to finally get my new kicker sorted on the 600 tomorrow. Maybe stick some sail numbers on my brand new sail for the season ahead, and maybe do some boat work to some of the other boats. The RS600's got a new halyard, a few bits for the spinnaker system. The laser's got new downhaul I need to put on it for other people to sail, and then I've also got a little wooden boat that needs a bit of love too before I can get that ready. So yeah, as you can see, pretty windy. Yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. If you like this sort of commentary, what kind of commentary you'd like to see. I'm thinking of maybe doing some videos on my boat setup, some of the bimbles I'm going to do to the boat over time. So yeah, if you want to see some of that, let me know.